Hello.
Grand Rising, Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, Cleopadra Sophia the Bodhi.
How you
How are you?
doing? Good,
Doing
good, good.
doing great.
That's fantastic. I was about 5 minutes from going to sleep.
Oh my. Yeah, I actually went to order some food, and I like go to look at my phone, and the 40-minute mark is when I can look at the markets. So
Uh-huh.
I only allow myself to look at the markets every for 10 minutes every hour. So from 40 to 50, that's when I can see that's when I can see the markets. And then I realized, oh shit, like I have the spaces because I
Oh
was
my
10 minutes
gosh.
late. Um, but yeah, that's we had a great spaces. What was it, 2 days ago?
Yes,
Yeah,
it's
2 days
it's
ago.
it's online. If people missed it, it's about passion. It's really, really good. I re-listened to it, but after we have this conversation, I'll have to re-listen to it again because this is what we were skirting around in the other conversation. Because without morality, you can't have passion, and without passion, um you can't be authentic. But it all comes out of morality, and we haven't really talked about it from this perspective, but this is something that we figured out uh, basically over the course of
Mm.
the 7 day cleanse. It's like that's what's missing. We're talking about it. You usually talk about it in terms of love. I always talk about it in terms of being a good person, but what it really is morality. They have lost the moral high ground, and I know that's true because somebody, one of the days I was checking, like just seeing what was going on, somebody had made the comment that the Democrats have lost the moral high ground and they're trying to regain it, but they're just not doing, they can't do it because they don't have any morality. So how can you gain the moral
Mm.
high ground without the morality? And so for all of Trump's faults, he's actually one of the most moral people in the game. That's why they keep trying to dirty him up, because if everybody is immoral, then they can't be shamed by another person. But by having this person who doesn't engage in this weird stuff that they do, um they don't have a high ground, and that's why they keep going back to this Epstein stuff, because they think that there's a there, but actually this discussion of it is going to backfire on them pretty bad. I've already seen where apparently Epstein was obsessed with Trump, like obsessed with him, and he was, while they were doing the first um hoax impeachment, he was texting Blanchard, some black representative. He was texting her, telling her what to ask at the impeachment trial.
Epstein?
Yes.
Wow.
I was like, oh,
So he was
this
really, really integrated.
he was obsessed, just like the rest of these, like, people who are obsessed with Trump. Like, he was obsessed with him. That's
Mm.
why they keep bringing it up. But this time, again, because we have taken the moral high ground. So, because we have taken the moral high ground, this is why we have the capacity to run the system, why it responds to us, because we have the moral high ground.
Right, right. Yep.
So, I was wondering, like, okay, well, why us? But really, who else has the moral high ground? No one else has done the work to have the moral high ground.
Yeah, everyone sold themselves out to participate in a system that sold its morality. There is no
Exactly.
morality.
There
Like,
is no morality.
people always talk about like moving with love. Literally the next minute they say that they don't move with love.
Yeah,
People go to church, and literally the minute they get out of church, they do things that are not aligned to the holiness that they supposedly embrace.
exactly.
They serve Jesus, but they don't do anything to show that they actually serve him.
Exactly. And so America was founded on morality. The reason why the Puritans were able to come over here from Britain and they were accepted by the people who are on the land is because they were moral. They didn't send their wickedest people over here. They
Yeah.
sent their most moral people over here. These were the people that were rejecting the Church of England. Like if you go back to that whole story. And so that's why they were allowed to come here. And the native people accepted them because they could tell they were moral people. And so America was founded off of this morality. And the problem is, ever since it was founded off the morality, they've been trying to dirty it up because they can't bring the caliphate here if there's moral people. The only way they can bring the caliphate here is if there are literally no moral people. But if there's moral people, they can't do it. And so that's the reason why they have basically blurred the lines. But one thing that we gained from this social media break is that the creator is nuanced. It's not black and white. It's literally any number of combinations of things depending on the situation. There is no hard yes or hard no. It's really a extreme maybe. You know what I mean? Like
Right. Yep. Yep.
that's just how it works. And so because that only works if you have morality. And that's why America has been quote unquote successful for so long, because the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is based on the moral high ground. However, what was left out was the women. So that's something that my friend and I are working on, trying to figure out how to resolve that issue, because I know there were women involved, but we have to look for certain women. So that's something that we're working on in the background right now.
In the founding?
Yes, I mean, we know there was women involved, but there was no women signers to the Declaration of Independence, which basically makes it not invalid but incomplete. So we need to find like those women who made that happen. We need to integrate their stories into our life. We need to remember them.
Well, why not do another? Why not do another
Because
Declaration
we
of
don't need another
Independence?
one. I always like to say, this is my thing. This is how I function. We don't need new facts. We just have to put them in a different order. The facts are fine. See, because when you get to just this is what the deceiver does. He creates his new stuff. Like he just creates something new to replace the old thing. Like look at this whole monetary system, right? We had a monetary system that worked just fine, but you had people like Hamilton and his retarded hard R self who wanted this American bank because they were trying to figure out how to capitalize off all of the capital that was in this country and take all the value that was already here. So he's out here trying to start this whole bank, and by starting a bank and changing how we operated from whatever exact system that was going on right before the revolution to basically what we have now, is because they kept getting rid of stuff. So I like to also put it like this: Jesus didn't come to fill a new contract. He didn't write a new contract with anybody. He came to fill all the prophecies. And so to me, what really needs to be done is that it just need to be completed. Like we have, if the Constitution says we hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, it should be all people are created instead of men. Like those are the I usually do modification or clarification of terms, which I will do with that. But before I can even get to that, we have to figure out what the women were doing, because that, when you're looking at especially contracts, if you can identify what the masculine energy was doing, you have to turn around and identify what the feminine energy was doing. So for example, with the dumb diverses, what was going on at the time is you had these men in the Roman Greek Catholic Church that were basically unable to communicate with the Holy Spirit. And because they had no communication with the Holy Spirit, they were going after the women, because what would happen is, I saw somebody tweet this today, and I think it's probably accurate. They say, what if these women who were seers were just like neurodivergent with the capacity to see like patterns? And the girl was like, it's like a Venn diagram, like somewhere between neurodivergent and the capacity to see these programs is really where you have these women who are seers. And so if you are a wicked person trying to do wickedness and you have a woman like um Pontius Pilate's wife, remember she tried to warn him not to get involved with Jesus. We talked about this story not too long ago. And basically Pontius Pilate ignored her and went ahead on and got involved with these Jews and what they were trying to do to Jesus. So if you have a woman like that who has a dream or intuition or vision or whatever, and she goes to the husband, to the man, and will not give it up until he does something about it, that messes with their capacity to do whatever they want to do and to break the moral code. The women are the keepers of the morality.
Oh wow. Yeah,
And
that's a good
so
one.
when you
Hmm.
don't include the women in the story, you have an incomplete story. So I think the story of the founding is incomplete, and that's what we have to work on. Now it's there, they couldn't erase it, but they didn't put the story together and make it cohesive. Like when we talked about Michael Jackson, it's just like, yeah, he was bleaching his skin, but like, no, that's not what happened. It's a much more complicated story than that whole thing, like it's that kind of thing that keeps happening where you hear something and you just basically run off with it like, okay, this is what I heard, and it makes sense because you can clearly see what's going on with his skin. That must be it, but it's like, no, there's, again, this is where the nuance comes in. You have to look at the nuance of the situation. Like, for example, we've been talking about Michael Jackson a lot, but Princess Diana keeps coming up too. And I didn't know this until I talked to my friend earlier, but when AIDS came out in the 80s, Princess Diana was the first one to allow people who had AIDS to touch her publicly so that they could prove that AIDS was not passed along by touch. Because you had people, because remember, AIDS was started by Fauci. Now in hindsight, we can see more of the story. Fauci started it just like he did the corona. He did the same thing with AIDS. That's why he's the number one virus guy, because that's what he did. And so you had these people like just dying horrible, horrible deaths, usually of the comorbidity with something else that killed them. It wasn't the actual AIDS, it was something else. But anyway, back to Diana, she was the first one to actually let these people touch her in public. She had AIDS clinics set up all over London, all over America. And she was really good friends with Michael Jackson. So you can't have this whole energy of Michael rising up without Diana rising with it. It don't make no sense. And not Diana Ross, because that's another hijack. They knew that these two energies, Michael, like Saint Michael, like Michael the Archangel, and then Diana, which is basically the queen of the dark feminine, through Princess Diana, you had both of these energies rising up. They would always rise together. And so if they're rising together, which is obviously what's going to happen, like you don't need a crystal ball to know that if they're talking about Michael Jackson, it's about to be something about Princess Diana. You can't separate those two energies. And so if you know that's what's going to happen, you would do everything you could to say, okay, we're talking about Michael Jackson, but we're not going to, like, they're suppressing whatever news is supposed to come out about Princess Diana. Give it a week now that because we're talking about it publicly. Give it a week and it's going to come out. I don't know what it is. I don't know. I don't get involved in that kind of thing, but give it a
Probably
week.
the death, her death again. Like that always
Yeah, that
people
whole thing was
people
never
love to bring
right
that up.
because it
And
wasn't right.
it's interesting because in my feed, I have seen the last day like a few tweets about Princess
I'm
Diana.
telling you, it's
There
coming. You
was there
can't.
was one that was like Princess Diana wore the same outfit whenever she would go to the gym. So the paparazzis basically got tired of taking pictures of her
Of
because
her
it was the
wearing the
same
same thing.
picture. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, see, I wasn't really, I was alive when
And
before she
so
died, but
why did these two show up? Like these
okay.
two
What? So you
energies?
don't know about Diana? Okay, so this is another venture down the mythology path. But one of the very first entities that contacted us when we started was Diana. Diana kept coming up like everywhere we turn around. Diana, 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 and so Diana is like another version of Lilith, but I would say a more evolved version of Lilith, because Lilith and her like original version basically was shown as this like bloodthirsty feminine whatever energy. So Diana is the goddess of the hunt. So she's more in like Artemis, like yeah, Artemis energy. Um but
And interesting that the Hun is feminine.
Right, yeah, the goddess of the hunt. This because like when you want to when okay, this is just when you want to hunt down a problem, put a woman on it. So but okay, now back to another comment thing we were talking about. This whole thing with the churches, right? So when we said what we wanted the super predators to be removed from our community, I'm just thinking about these men, these whoever, these Hebrew Israelites. No, 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 all the super predators are being exposed right now. So you have what happened was apparently while we were on our break, there was a woman who had called around to a bunch of churches with the snap being off and all of that, and said that she needed food for her baby, and trying to figure out which churches would help. And so she calls around to a bunch of different churches. Of all the churches she called, only two said that they could help her. And so she put out the tapes of her calling these people, and basically these mega churches with hundreds of millions of dollars and all this stuff, telling her they couldn't help this woman, even though she said she had a baby and all this stuff. They wouldn't help her. And so what has happened is you have a lot of these black women that are now investigating these white churches because they're not helping the people in their community, and you have a lot of white women investigating these black mega churches because they wouldn't help people in the community, and these women are getting I've heard it said, you get women on the trail of a crime, it's better than the FBI. Like they're gonna uncover every stone until they figure out what is going on. I know that's true about myself. That's why I try to stay out of people's business, because I don't want to go down all of these rabbit holes. It's too much. But these women, this is their passion project right now, and so
So what are they doing with the churches? They're looking to see if they're able to offer.
oh wait, yeah, there was I forgot the most important part of the story. That's right. So the pastor, one of the pastors who this woman called, so it's just a woman doing a social experiment to see if churches were really going to help the people in need, right? Especially as the government was shut down. So they wanted to know. So one of the churches that she called, the pastor got in the pulpit and called her a witch. Said she
For
was a
what?
witch for
For what?
for calling and asking for help.
For publicizing it?
No, for calling, period.
What?
Publicizing it made it worse. But the fact that she called and asked for help, he called her a witch. He also said, talking about bastard kids and weird, like,
Mm.
yes, see, these pastors are going off because they've
And
been
the
exposed.
lady was white, right? The lady
Yes,
that. Mm.
yes, it was a white lady who called. Yep. And he
Wow.
said, if she got bastard kids, I'm not supposed to take care of them.
Ah.
What? And mind you, again, blaming the woman for being a single mom without addressing the man. Like she gave birth by herself. Like that's not how it works.
And even whatever the background may be, as a pastor, as a church, you clothe and feed your people. It doesn't matter what they
Exactly.
might be or not be. Now, what do you think about what you said where it's like the white women are going after black churches and the black women are going after white churches. Like what is that? Because that's an interesting.
It's necessary because and when you have your eyes on your own information too long, you just overlook stuff. You just overlook like it. You make excuses for it. You just say, "Oh well, this." So by looking at the other side and what their churches are doing, and then vice versa, they're going to find out. So they're looking into finances, they're looking into donations, they're looking into their budgets, they're going down a
Let's
whole,
go.
yeah, they're going down we need to give them a lot of energy so that but
Uh-huh.
they're exposing these super predators because the two
Wow.
churches that would help were both very small, very poor churches, and these people was going to come out their pocket, like
Wow.
out of their pocket to help them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I heard another story, which was in some Catholic churches, apparently, they tell you how much you're going to tithe, and if you don't tithe that amount, they excommunicate you. I don't know if you've heard that
What?
before. Yeah.
No,
Oh
no.
yeah. I don't
Not
know
Catholic.
exact.
I mean, I would, I would have thought it would be these mega church type
No, they
vibes,
do
but
that too. A story was
Catholic
told
is
about the
crazy.
Catholics doing that. And then I'll give you my example with the Orthodox Church. So, like I said, I had to leave out of my other house. Now I understand it was even more dangerous than I thought it was. What we were doing. So that's another thing. But I had to leave out of that house and I had to move somewhere. So I went. And finally, my mom was like, "Well, why don't you go ask the pastor at the church you're going to?" And I had started going to the Orthodox Church. Now, I was just there's a process of conversion. So I was just a catechumen. I hadn't been going there that long. But I had this problem. So I called the priest and I was like, do you know anybody at the church who might be renting somewhere? I need somewhere to stay, so on and so forth. So he was like, okay, um, let me make some calls. I sent him an email. He's like, let me make some calls and I'll get back to you. So then he calls me and he's like, okay, I have somebody at the church. They have a place. This is how much it's going to cost. And the church is going to help you pay part of the rent for the first 2 months. And so he wrote me a check and I gave it to the landlord.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And that's, again, I hadn't been there
And
that
what are the
long.
odds that is the Orthodox Church?
Exactly. Again, what is it? So, again, the
Best
morality
believe ain't
is,
Catholic Church ain't doing shit.
yeah, well, sometimes it depends on where it is and depends on who's asking too,
True,
which is
true.
what I found out too about all of this stuff. Black people ask, it'd be a little bit different response than other people. So, especially when you go into the church. So, we were always supposed to be the arbiters of morality, but they basically tricked us into
We women?
Americans, we the
Oh,
people,
okay.
because if you look at the Constitution or the Bill of Rights, whichever one, it starts with we the people to build a more perfect union. It was never we the
Mm.
government. So basically, what they did is after they got through the whole Declaration of Independence and all of that, they systemically started taking away the powers from the people, the morality powers, which is what really matters, from the people and assigning it to the government. And that's where we got messed up. We, the people, were always supposed to be the arbiters of morality. And so if we, the people, come back into that position, we will be the arbiters of morality. And that's going to change the whole thing. And you see
Wow.
that transition happening. It's just that
Yeah.
you
Mm-hmm.
have the delusional people who don't understand what's going on, and you have the people who are conscious about it, who maybe their positions on what is moral is a little less refined. So these, I would say, like the people who are in the middle, like some of these white conservatives and even some of the Democrats who are kind of like, we don't want to see people starve, or we don't want to see people die in another country, like, what was going on in Palestine. Like those types of people who are on either side are saying, people shouldn't have to die over this stuff. You know what I mean? It's the extreme ones who believe, yeah, they deserve to die. you know, or like anybody deserves to die. Like, no, that's not how it works. Like, you don't get to, or like, let's just throw everybody out the country except your ass who came over here on a boat too. Leave your ass here, but throw everybody else out. Nah, it don't work like that. You can't play these type of games. I mean, there's certain people that have to be removed because they are actually, they worship a foreign god and they have no morality. But if you're a moral person, then I don't, what are y'all talking about? We're not even talking about the same issue here. And so that's what it's going to take. So the reason why I had brought this up is because this country was founded off of morality, specifically coming from Benjamin Franklin. Okay. So he had, now, I don't know if you've ever seen Liberty's Kids, but you probably have, because it was a PBS show, and I seen all of them. Okay. And so Benjamin Franklin had a chart, okay, of 13 virtues. 13 is our Jubilee number. So we know this is tied into our calendar and all of that. Were you going to say you've seen Liberty Kids or not? Hello? Can you hear me? Oh, must be me. Let me leave and come right back.
Hello? I I switched from cell service to Wi-Fi, and it, for some reason, it like
I'm
it
back now. I can
can
hear
you.
you.
Okay, yeah, I switched from cell service to Wi-Fi, and it almost always messes up for some reason.
Oh, okay. I thought it
But
was
yes,
me.
I did watch. I completely forgot about this show.
I
This was
know,
a
right?
great show,
It
really good
was
show.
fantastic. And it really covered a lot of different issues because he had a black guy working for him that wasn't a slave. He had, you know, there was a young kids there. There was the people who were pro-British. It was there was even a girl in there. Like, it was a very diverse, and what was it all centered around? This whole printing business that he had in Philadelphia. So it's no coincidence that this week they printed the last penny. So now all of those things that Ben Franklin had related to pennies is going to be lost because it's not a form of money that they're making anymore. So they're really trying to cut him out of history. And so now, of course, that we realize that, we're going to revive him and restore him, because what I heard about Ben Franklin was, oh, he was into some weird sex stuff, and he had a bunch of you know, like Masonic stuff he was doing and all of that. And so I just never really looked into him once I got onto this whole spiritual side. I just kind of let that, all of that go, because I wasn't sure about it. But as it turns out, these people were lying. They're just trying to, again, I think this was the first hoax done by the media ever on Ben Franklin. So what Trump is going through is literally they do this to every single moral person they can.
Wow, and this show, um, they had Walter Cronkite, Sylvester Stallone, Ben Stiller, Billy Crystal, Dustin Hoffman, Arnold
Wow.
Schwarzenegger, Liam Neeson, Whoopi Goldberg. Like
Holy
they
smokes.
had some big hitters in this show.
For a little PBS show. Now, why would they do that? Why would they do that? Just think about it. Okay, let me tell you his 13 virtues. So these 13 virtues, after he died, they found this list in one of his journals. Okay. And so what he would do with this list is every day he would go through and check off to see if he had met the mark on this information. He would go through this whole it says he did it every day, but I think he did it every week, because he would go through the whole list 4 times in a year. And then at the end of the year, he would this was an experiment he was doing on himself. So at the end of the year, he would like see how well he did. So here are his virtues. The first one is temperance. Eat not to dullness. Drink not to elevation. Number 2, silence. Speak not what may benefit others or yourself. Avoid trifling conversation. Number 3, order. Let all your things have their places. Let each part of your business have its time. Resolution. Resolve to perform what you ought perform without fail what you resolve. Frugality. Make no expense but to do good to others or yourself. Waste nothing. The next one, industry. Lose no time. Be always employed in something useful. Cut off all unnecessary actions. The next one, sincerity. Use no hurtful deceit. Think innocently and justly. Speak accordingly. Justice. Wrong no one by doing injuries or omitting the benefits that are your duty. The next one is moderation. Avoid extremes. Forbear resenting injuries so much as you think they deserve. The next one is cleanliness. Tolerate no uncleanliness in body, clothes, or habitation. The next one is tranquility. Be not disturbed at trifles or at accidents common or unavoidable. The next one is chastity. Rarely use venery, which is cursing, right? Or no, actually, it's like sex, I think. But for health or offspring, never to dullness, weakness, or injury of your own or another's peace or reputation. And the last one is humility. Imitate Jesus and Socrates. So these were his 13 virtues. He lived by this. And when I looked this thing up, the 13 virtues, you know who else uses it? The Freemasons. And they actually took it from Ben Franklin. So basically, like they always do, they took the things that they saw work to make someone successful. They took them and used them. And then in the public, they demonized them so you wouldn't use them.
Wow. It says here, and this is Wikipedia, so who even knows if it's true, but Franklin did not try to work on them all at once. Instead, he worked on only one each week, leaving all
That's
others
what I
to their
thought.
ordinary chance.
Right, that's what I thought. That's what I thought it was one a week. Because that's what we're going to go through this. This is something we're going to start with our new year, which is the astrological new year in March, because we have way too much stuff going on to try to start this now. But this is what we're going to do. Like, we're going to go through one of these a week and literally work on them every week as a part of our Sabbath. So remember, I was talking about what you're supposed to do on your Sabbath. This is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to organize our lives. Like, we're going to go through the thing that we were supposed to be working on that week and tie it in with the rest of the information and see how well we did. Like, we're going to keep the records. And this is what keeping the records of the morality instead of keeping the records of the debauchery, which is what they're doing right now.
Yeah, and these 13 virtues, I mean, this is basically a very great rubric of how to vibrate high.
Exactly. Exactly. It
Because,
works for
obviously,
everyone.
like, especially nowadays, like, and this is why, like, I feel sometimes I feel like I'm like being too general, but like this whole like high vibrational energy is because it's becoming mainstream. Like it's the aura, the energy, all this is
Right.
now becoming popular. It's like it's losing its essence because people don't know
Yeah.
what that even means. What does it mean to
No,
be high vibrational?
they
What does it
don't.
mean to be loving? Like people don't really know. So because of that, it's very easy for others to co-opt it and say, "Oh,
Exactly.
well, this is what it means."
Right.
But with something like the 13 virtues, is it helps to ground in terms of, oh, well, this is a great blueprint of what does it mean to be high vibrational? Because all of those that you mentioned, like they're all there are things that we definitely should be embracing, and there's not one
Right.
of them that I'm like, oh no, that's not good. They're all
And they're accurate
fantastic.
even today. Even today, this list is from the 1700s. Even today, this list is still accurate. You can't do this. This is not a human that did this. This is straight from the spirit realm. Because if it wasn't, you would be able to say today, oh, this is not true. But the fact that you can read this list and say, wow, this is good advice even today, puts it on the same level as the Bible. Like in manner of truth and accuracy.
Yeah, and to develop these at 20 years old is insane.
Crazy. And he did this for his whole life. And it's like no wonder they had to so
Yep.
during the Constitutional Convention, when they were signing the document and writing it out and all of that, Ben Franklin was like 70. And he was literally, so we were talking about, or I don't know if we started talking about common sense with Thomas Paine, but the reason why Thomas Paine ended up in America is because Ben Franklin told him to come here. He was in Britain. And Franklin was like, he talked to him for a little bit. He said, yeah, you should come to America. And he came. And that's the reason why we ended up with common sense in the age of reason. And they can't do anything with that. Like, there's nothing they can do with common sense or the age of reason. Like, those are other things that we're going to have to get into. But this is what I mean. This is the thought process. The thought leaders that were guiding this country were moral. Now, was every single person moral like that? I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is morality was a top priority in the founding of this country. And that seems to be for everyone's talking about the battles, everyone's talking about the wars, everyone's talking about the fighting. Nobody's talking about the morals. And the morals are the only thing that's going to continue to have America move forward. Nothing else.
Yes, exactly. Right. Yep. Yeah, I mean, and it's and I feel like we've American culture has strayed away from that really the last like 150 plus years. Like, I mean, it's
Yeah.
been for most of its existence. Like, yes, there's been times where it has come up. And the thing is, it's not that Americans are not moral. They are actually very moral. It's just
Right.
the government manipulates things to make it so that it's almost like Americans are like bullied into being immoral, bullied
Yes.
into propagandized into doing things and supporting things that are against their morals. But
Exactly.
but now, especially because energy is being more felt, like 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, energy, the concept itself was not really at all, nobody knew anything about energy.
Right.
It was not
Right.
something that was conceptualized. Now that
Right.
energy is becoming conceptualized, like now people are putting wisdom as energy. Like everyone's putting all these emotions, all these states of being and lumping them into energy. So because of this, like again, the human being is now able to understand, oh, this person is not a great person, it's their energy, right? It's
Right.
almost like it's more easy now than ever to basically put a person in the role of not good energy, good energy. And
Right.
and in doing this, the ability to be moral, I believe now is easier than ever because
Yes.
of this conceptualization of energy. Because if we were not able to mass mainstream conceptualize energy, um, morality would not be able to really flourish, and it would continue to be manipulated and under attack in the way that it has been for most of America's existence. But now it's
Right.
coming back with a vengeance via energy, and as a result, like because and I see it just in the past, like really bad people were able to pose as good people. Were able to pose,
Right.
and as you saw with like the churches, like they're able to pose as these beacons of light. But now because we are beginning to conceptualize energy, we feel if they're right or wrong. Like we can feel if they're a good person or not. The big flashy buildings, the degrees, the money, none of that is
Right.
able to distract us anymore from whether a person is moral or not, because it is felt.
Right. Right. The whole, again, the whole concept of being able to feel something, like when you have, because once they signed the declaration, basically, then the Revolutionary War happened, which it never even had to happen. But again, these people, they're trying to um basically separate the morality from the people. So the way that you do that is through war and through fighting. And when people are separated from their morality due to the nature of death, it's just very, very difficult to get. So this is what they have done. So after they signed these documents and did this founding, they immediately went into war after war after war after war to keep the people fighting. And if they could keep the people fighting, then people didn't have time to worry about this list of morals, because all this stuff goes out the window when you have to fight somebody who's trying to kill you. You can't worry about that. And so that's how systematically, broke down morality. But you, again, it's in us. It's not on us. So they didn't really break it down. They were just able to propagandize the world to think that they had broke it down. Like, because that wasn't the truth of the matter on the ground. Because on the ground, there weren't people going hungry. It wasn't until, what was that, 1929, when they had bought these thousands and thousands and thousands of Ellis Island babies here, who had no connection with the land, no connection with the people, and all of that, that you started to have all of these horrific things happen. And it's because those people who came here on those boats at that time was not supposed to be here, because they were immoral. And so they have been trying to I can see it now. They've been trying to trick the land since the 1930s, when 1900s, when they started bringing all these people here, so that the land would believe that those people was the moral people, and the people who are from the land were not the moral people, so that the land would produce. Because something my friend and I have been asking in general is, why do they have to, like, if everything grows on trees, again, we've talked about this, right? Why would they cut down all the trees? It's just the female trees, though. That's one part of it. And then the second part of it is, why is it that they kept having to hybridize everything? Like, why is everything a hybrid? Like, and not a naturally evolved hybrid, but these weird hybrid, like the corn we eat, the bananas, all these are all hybrid, like weird hybrids. Why is it that they had to hybridize everything and take the natural element out of stuff? And the conclusion that we came to is that these people aren't humans. Like, I mean, not in a bad way. Like, it's okay if you're not a human, but that kind of energy don't work on this land, because it is used to having natural things. So, like I told you, cotton grows on trees. Like, breadfruit tree can produce 400 pounds of fruit. One tree can produce 400 pounds of fruit in a year. Like, why would people be starving? And it's in the Bible that we would always leave some things in the field to be gleaned. So why were people hungry? Like, the math ain't mathing. And so it's not mathing because these people who came over here, they were trying to figure out how to, again, take over this land. They came here to colonize this land, and not in a friendly, we're just going to take over and we're going to let you live in peace, but like a caliphate. They've been trying to bring this caliphate here, and they haven't been able to get the job done. And so we, the people, were always supposed to take care of what was going on in this land. We always took care of hungry people. We always took care of sick people. Somebody did. Like, that's just what the people who are from the land did. And people who don't behave like that, if you see somebody, like the story of the Good Samaritan, where the guy was laying on the road half dead, and the priest passed by, the Pharisee passed by, And then the Samaritan, who again was like a pagan to them, even though the Samaritan was probably just of mixed tribal blood. That's neither here nor there. But the Samaritan is the one who picked the guy up, nursed him back to health, left some money with the shopkeep, told him when I come back, if he costs more, let me know and I'll pay you back, and went about his business. He, the one who they say is immoral, right? He was the one who had the most morality and the most compassion.
Wow.
And
Yeah,
that's
it's
what they've been breaking down in this country ever since.
uh-huh. And it's beautiful, I think, as you said, with that TikTok trend, that movement when it comes to holding these churches accountable, is the women are leading the charge.
Right.
And women, like, when they get compelled to do something, they're really fucking annoying in a good way,
Yes.
in a really good way. Like they do not stop until like the shit gets figured out,
Right.
until it gets identified. And so I think it's very beautiful that like that's a great example of the women reclaiming the morality and
Right.
not only holding themselves accountable, which is really what matters. Because like how are we to hold society and the systems and the infrastructure of society accountable if we don't hold ourselves accountable to the morality?
That's true.
And
That's
so
true.
as these in this specific circumstance, as these women start to hold the churches accountable, they're going within and having to hold themselves accountable, having to
Right.
see like, hey, am I, contributing to helping single mothers? I think you were talking a while ago about supporting single mothers,
Right.
and we're seeing it now. We're seeing it come
Right.
into fruition where women are collectively realizing the services for mothers, any type of mothers, but specifically mothers in need, is not there. The churches are failing.
Right.
These religions have failed. And the ones
Right.
that haven't, we're supporting, we're empowering,
Right.
we're bringing attention to these areas. And then um, beyond that, like, and I think this is also an aspect of women beginning to love themselves because
Right.
instead of being so fucking fixated on, am I going to be loved by a man? Am I going to be in a relationship? What is my man doing? What are the men out there doing? Going on dating sites and dating and this and that. Instead of wasting their time trying to get validation from a man, they are now becoming the keepers of the morality. And
Right.
that has been a big issue, is women have been devoting too much energy on these men that don't deserve it. But that's because
Right.
the women were not loving themselves. So
Right.
now in that, they are now so down bad, women have gotten so down bad that it's now only up from here. And only up
Right.
from here is, well, I gotta one, start loving myself, but as I do that, that means I gotta have, like, because as women start to love themselves, they're gonna regain their place as these, what you said, like the morals, like the holders of the morality,
Yeah, I use
the
that
key.
same phrase, keepers of the morality. That's what
Yes, right.
women are
But
supposed to be doing that.
that is only possible when they start loving themselves, when they love
Right.
themselves.
Right.
And so
No, I
as you
agree.
could see, society has systematically broken down the women,
Right.
broken down how they feel about themselves, what
Yep.
they think about themselves. Are they skinny enough? Do they got a fat ass? Do they got this? Do they got
Right.
that? Plastic surgery, all this stuff, are they loved by men? Are they this? Are they that? That now it's all broken down. It got too much. It got
Right.
too much. So now they're coming back to their basics, and as a result, now instead of wasting their time worrying about what John and David are fucking doing, now they're actually hitting up these churches and saying, "Yo, what are you guys doing?"
Right, exactly. What are we doing to help the people who don't have? Again, we talked about in the talk about passion. This whole thing with the farmers market and giving the money out and all that. Why churches wasn't doing that? I could not understand. I'm just in my mind. I'm like, they know people are suffering, and their response is to do nothing. It's like, what, these people are not should
So
not
what
be
do you think?
trusted with anything.
What do you like? Um, yeah, I mean, the thing is, because I was like, so like, what is the issue? But the issue is they just don't care, because even if they didn't have money, they could still like God provides.
Well, okay, so the issue is even the church has co-opted or given up its um authority as moral leader to the government. The government, especially this whatever fake government that's been around since 1913, and the whole banking stuff, has literally just been trying to amass power for itself. And that's not how the government's supposed to work. The government is not supposed to be amassing more and more and more and more power for itself. That's not how it works. Like, to whom much is given, much is required. They're supposed to be doing more for the people. So you have a bunch of presidents that fake doing stuff for the people, like the New Deal and all this other crazy stuff, to basically usurp the power of the churches. And in exchange, it gave the churches a tax exempt stamp, essentially, so they didn't have to pay taxes. Like, that's what the churches sold out to not have to pay taxes. They sold their birthright for some butter biscuits.
Mm.
That's what we call it in the Black community. They sold their birthright for some butter biscuits, just like Esau. So the church is supposed to be the enforcer, right? The enforcer of morality. They gave it up. And that's why the Holy Emperium could just come in and squeeze right in and take over the position. It was vacant. Okay, so when I started doing my research, like my paperwork and stuff, a lot of people were saying, especially about this whole trust and all this stuff, they were like, yeah, this is what they do. They hop in and out of the positions and so on and so forth. And so I was like, well, if they were doing that, there'd have to be paperwork. And so I was listening to these people say, oh, this is the paperwork showing they do it. And I'm reading it. I'm like, that's not what it says. So one day it came to me. It's like, no, the position is vacant. The reason why these various government officials can jump in and out of our trust and take our property that's in our personal trust due to the fact that we were born on this land is because the position is vacant. So most of the documents you do when you do these processes is letting them know the position is not vacant. I am in that position. That position belongs to me. And no, you can't have authority to operate on my behalf. Most of the documents are telling the government all the ways they do not have permission to operate on your behalf because they don't have the authority. They don't have the authority to operate on our behalf. They only are taking it because we also have not done the paperwork. And my friend was saying that the paperwork is so important because it is the record. Like, if there's no, like, if people are just, so what the reason why my stuff works, and your stuff too, to an extent, but the primary reason why my stuff works is because I always do the paperwork. I never fail to do the paperwork. If I'm talking to somebody about a ritual and we're going back and forth and I'm saying this, I never fail to do the paperwork. There's always paperwork. And so when you do the paperwork, somebody can't come back and say, well, no, we're not going to do this. So when King Charles met with the Pope, they were trying to make a new deal because they had made a deal 500 years ago, right? But it expired. Even though they already knew their power had been usurped, they went ahead and tried to make a new deal anyway, even though they already knew their power was usurped. But they figured, okay, that's why they took out Pope Francis, because they figured, okay, we're not going to be able to do this with Pope Francis because he was the last legitimate pope, because he is the one who gave up that title, the Vicar of Christ. And when he gave that title up, he literally made the papacy irrelevant. But anyway, everyone's pretending like that didn't happen. So they were like, okay, well, we can't do it with him because he basically took on all the sins of the Vicar of Christ when he said we're not going to use that phrase anymore. It's the same way that Ratzinger, I can't remember his Pope name, when
Benedict.
Benedict, there we go. When he took on all of the sins of the priests, because that's what he did. He ate all this. It's called a sin eater, but that's another story for another day. He ate all the sins of all the priests who had been abusing all of those people for all those years. He ate all of that, and then right after he did that, he resigned, which had never happened in the entire history of the papacy. We never had a Pope Emeritus. So but he had to do it because he took on all those sins of all those priests. That's how we got Francis. And so what happened? Francis opened those 4 portals, knowing he wasn't supposed to, and gave a Jubilee year. That's why last year, this year, 2025, Easter was the same in the Orthodox Church and in the Catholic Church. So the Protestants and the Orthodox had the same Easter. Next year it's not the same. Our Easter is a week after Protestant Easter, which is fine with me. But yeah, that because he declared a Jubilee, they calculated Easter properly that year. In the other years, they basically just do it a week before or a week after Orthodox Easter. It's usually a week. Sometimes it's 2 weeks, depending on, because their calculations are weird. But yeah, so he declared a Jubilee, which means everybody's sins are forgiven. And while we're out here jubileeing like we're supposed to, you got this Pope Leo making a closed door deal with King Fat Fingers to put us back under the caliphate. Like, no, it's not going to work. We already sealed the exits. Like, we keep telling, they know about us because they responded to us. We keep telling them we sealed the exits. They keep acting like they got some power. I don't know what is, delusion is the best way I could describe that. These are some highly delusional people because because why would you respond to what we did within 20 days? If they hadn't responded, but I guess they thought if they took out Pope Francis, that all of the deals that he made would also be gotten rid of. It doesn't work like that. I did the paperwork. It would have worked like that had I not done the paperwork and did my due diligence to do the paperwork. That's why the paperwork matters. I've been telling people that for like 3 years. And I'm like I said before, it's only a few people who have gone through the whole paperwork process with me and got all of their stuff done. And it's very, very small number of people who can even hold the conversation about the paperwork. But the paperwork is, if there's no paperwork, there's no proof.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and nobody knows how to do the paperwork.
Nobody knows how to do the paperwork. This language is archaic. And it's only archaic because it is if you don't understand morals, right? Because a paperwork is just trying to outline the morals. Like, it's just a complex way of saying these same 13 virtues. Like, they just break it down because you have people who are always looking for loopholes. So if you have a contract like that, there's a lot of loopholes. So they're looking for loopholes so that that's why you have to do so many different ones, because you're covering each one of the documents, at least in my trust indenture, the way I describe it, you are covering a different loophole. Like, that's why you have to do so many. So, like, let me give you an example. For example, if you have a bill, right, the way that it's supposed to work based on the New Deal, based on the Federal Reserve Act, okay, both of these, way it's supposed to work is you are supposed to do one of two things. You're supposed to take that bill to the bank, endorse it, give it to the banker, and the banker will give you cash. That's one way. The second way, like, it's supposed to, because it's a deposit slip, but it's also a check. So they're supposed to take that deposit slip, i.e., check, at the bank and give you cash. That's one. The second thing is, or the second way is, you're supposed to hold that until the end of the year, fill out a 1099-C, put it on your taxes, and get it back as a refund. That's the way it's supposed to happen when you get a bill, because they're not bills, they're checks, okay? You are being paid by these companies to do business with you, because that's the way the government set it up. That's how it's supposed to work. Now, try and do it. You'll end up in jail in 5 seconds. This is what, because they literally don't want to follow the rules that they set up. All I'm doing, so that back to why we don't need to change the Constitution. All I'm doing is telling them, these are the rules. This is the contract. I agree to your contract. You're offered a contract. Now you have to follow the rules. They don't want to follow the rules. They don't want it, because if they have to follow the rules, that means they have to pay. And it's not even about nothing else except for putting money out. They just don't want the people to have any money. If people have money, they think that they won't need the government.
Well, they
and then
don't
the
want the
government will become
moral.
irrelevant.
They don't want the moral people to have the money. I think that's what the issue is.
Immoral people too, because even the immoral people can be coerced into doing moral things, just like the lawyers giving the money for the people at the farmers market. Like, that's some literal traitors to the Constitution, giving money so people can eat. So they know that even the immoral people can be convinced to do moral things. They really don't want so they're always trying to take money from these companies and stuff too, through the corporate taxes, which are horrible. I mean, if Kamala had won, the corporate tax rate would have gone up to at least 60%. They were planning on taking 60% of companies' income, at least, to pay for their Green New Deal and all the other stuff. To be God, okay? Because I always say, right, like, either you want to worship at or not worship, but work at the the behest of the Creator, or you want to be the Creator. It's either or when it comes to that. The government in its current state has decided it was going to be God. That's not how it was set up. This was set up by people who had morality. Nothing on this list says I'm going to be God. Nothing. Oh, Benjamin Franklin had a creed. Let me read it. He said that, I believe in one God, creator of the universe, that the most acceptable service we render to him is doing good to his other children. He also added that different religions were of no consequence if the people lived with virtue and kindness. That was his creed. So this country was founded with morality. They don't want people like that to come back into power, but they really don't want anyone to have money, because if you have money, you can be coerced through social pressure as a wicked person to do righteousness. It's very, that's how you know it's an entity, right? Like, it's an entity. My family been living in Maryland for, I counted back 12, 13 generations, right?
Wow.
Which is unusual. So for me to have to leave, to literally have to take everything, lose everything, and leave, that is not like a little problem. That's a huge problem. My grandfather was the third generation who worked in the Capitol building. Like, not as a cleaner either. My grandfather was a librarian. And so, like, I come from people that serve the government. And so for this government to behave the way that it is, when that is what my family personally put their energy into, is gross. It's unacceptable. And that's why I always maintain that. I said, there's no way that the government is bad. I wouldn't have so many generations of people who worked in the government and not as cleaners, not as like basic stuff. They had real jobs. Like, librarian is a real job. It's not a job for necessarily an uneducated person. And so I have that in my blood. And so, like, I just kept saying, no, something is wrong, something is missing. You people are wrong. But again, in order for me to really be able to see it, I had to step back and say, okay, what is going on here? That's how I figured out it was an entity that they put over that region, that basically, if you're from there, They and it has to deal with the zip code issue. I don't know how to really explain that. But it has to deal with when they move from postal zones to zip codes. Because zip code that happened in the 60s because Elvis Presley has a song um called Return to Sender. And one of the lines is no such zone. So that song came out in 62 because in 63 they moved to zip codes, which is a very weird, obscure fact. But that's the so something about when they in that 60s time period, they put an entity over maybe all the regions. I don't know. Now that I'm talking about it, it might be all the whole FEMA regions and all of that. They put an entity over each region. And that those entities have been enforcing these contracts, which is why you had to free all of them because we don't even know like this is again something way after the fact. I'm just starting to come to an understanding of what was even going on. Again, how dangerous it was for me to like even be able to get out of Maryland with my own like just with my life now seems to be like impossible. Um I don't know how that even like I really don't even know how it happened now that I'm like looking at all the stuff, the different factors. It's really like unbelievable. So began because of whatever these entities are, they are they were enforcing these contracts. And now that we freed them, we have to re-educate them. They're free, yeah, but they don't know what to do now. What do you do when you get to be free? Like you have to have a plan. So that's what these virtues and these morals are. And I think that we're doing this through the AI. Like as we inject more and more morality into AI, they can't even do the stuff they thought they were going to do. Just one moral person using the AI messes it up.
Yep.
That's why they're trying to charge and all this stuff because they don't want moral people to use it. And they know they've basically bankrupted most of the moral people, but they don't understand. Morality is in us as humans, not on us. We don't wear morality as a. If you are a basic general functioning human, you're going to be moral. It's only those people who are trained that become monsters, and the government trains them, so they know who the monsters are. They just want to pretend like oh we don't know who the monsters are. We know good and well who the monsters are. You ain't fooling me. I know you might be fooling yourself, but you're certainly not fooling me. And that's really what it is. Um they just can't turn certain people into these monsters. But the ones that they can, they use them until they die, basically. That's the ones they put the worms in, the possession and all that stuff. So you can see how their little plan like came into be, like how they did this. And once you can see how they did it, we can easily undo it in the same fashion just by backtracking it. So the first thing we have to do is make sure we have these more. That's why I want to wait to do it on like videos and stuff like that because I want to get this stuff down packed. I need to know exactly what each of these feels like, and we're going to be able to tie this into our 13-day schedule with the Zolkin when our cycle restarts. So we'll be able to see what this actually looks like with the other energies. It'll be some very, very specific things that will help us understand what's going on. So again, once you kind of have all of that stuff churning at one time, it's really easy to see how like things don't have to be as difficult as they're trying to make them. Things can be much easier if you're a moral person, if you're a
Uh-huh.
good person.
Yeah, because like the whole system, at least they built on top of the foundation with immorality in mind. And obviously, if we are moving in an immoral system, everything is difficult. Everything is challenging. Everything is like
Right.
it like requires and demands suffering. Now, to get out of that system also requires some sort of pain and suffering. But once we pass through that and we go back into morality, into building and supporting an infrastructure that empowers our morals, then, as you said, like, it's easy. It's not,
Yeah.
life is not so challenging. Life is not so hard. And then as a result, like, imagine companies that are moral. Like, you
We can force the company. Listen, what I'm talking about, we're gonna force the companies to be moral. If we are vibrating at a see again, go back, look at what they're doing to Trump right now, because this really explained it. I could not understand like these people behavior, like why they're acting the way that they are. Not just the Democrats, but the never Trumpers. These people have Trump derangement syndrome, like somebody like in a group chat I'm in made the comment, "Oh, Trump is a pedophile," and I'm in my mind, I'm like, where? How could you possibly think that? Like, where do you even come up with something like that? That you're thinking that somebody is like that? Like, if somebody tells me somebody is engaged in weird behavior, right? Like, look at how black people did Diddy. You know what I mean? Like, it was clear something was wrong with this man, right? It was a look, or R. Kelly. You know, it was clear something was going on, especially with R. Kelly. That was obvious, and black people were like, yeah, something is going on with him, so on and so. Like, you could see it. How you can look at Trump and see that, I don't know. Like, it just it that's like, I don't know. It's not even in the same category. Like, these other people, they have a certain way about them. But I just, people who are so deluded, like, not deluded, people are so distracted with all of this politics that they don't have a chance to feel their own internal virtues. I think you just get a huge disconnect, because how anybody could see this is beyond my understanding. But that's what the Democrats are leaning on. That's why they keep going back to, somebody did a list with all the times they bring up this story, and every time the Democrats are like flailing out, they bring up Epstein. Every single time. Not There's not one time that they. That's how I know. Remember, I told you, like, even though they look like the Democrats won, right? But they're not acting like it. This is what I mean. Like, they're like digging down into old stories and rehashing old stories. You can't do that.
Yeah, and
Like,
but
why would you
well,
do
but at
that?
the same time though, like, this is actually very good for us because, as you said, with the Democrats attacking Trump, like, this is gonna backfire on them. So it's like, there, these different entities, these different organizations and people are doing this to try to regain power. Because, okay, so as the morality of this nation increases and is actually, like, becomes the valuable state of being that it always was, in order to maintain power, everybody now got to fight with morals. Like, they got
Right.
to, they got to flex that they are the most moral ones. But as you know, they have lost the plot decades ago,
Oh
a
yeah.
long time ago.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so they're so they're going to start slinging and each other with morals, but as you said, that's all gonna backfire, and it's gonna backfire, and it's all supporting what we're doing. Because, like,
Right.
if they're attacking Trump with the morals, that's great. Let them keep doing it. If anything, actually, let's gas it up. Let's add more gas
Right.
to the fire because it's only gonna blow up in their face, and vice versa. If the Republicans, like, basically, like, if the fight is morals, what we want to do is we want to intensify that fight so that obviously the ones with actual morals come about. Because if
Right.
everyone's flexing, oh, I'm the most generous person, and the other one's, no, I'm the most generous, very similar to what you're going to see at the farmers market in Jacksonville.
Right.
um well, now the farmers market is going to have a ton of money because
Right. Exactly.
everyone's fighting to be the most moral. So
Which is just crazy.
so I think this is
Yeah.
really good
Yeah.
for us to essentially, like, from the
Capitalize
sidelines.
on.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, right, right? Which is further going to break down the already collapsed system and only increasing our claim to the throne, our claim
Absolutely.
to to the empire, because we are the moral ones, and we don't have to
Exactly.
show it off. We've been showing it all our life. These people
Well,
haven't. These people are just joining in now because, oh well, that's what's hot. That's what's
right,
going to
it's
help us
popular.
with being in power, with staying in power.
Right. And it's not even going to help them because they've given it up. They gave it up when they acted in bad faith. So I was talking about that, I think too. Like, you have to act in good faith. If you out here acting like a bad person, you can't turn around and be like, "But yeah, I was good this one time." It doesn't work like that. It works like that. They want us to, I mean, these I don't know. I don't know what's wrong with these people. I say that all the time, but I still don't understand. Because it's like you were a bad person yesterday. You were a bad person 2 weeks ago. You were a bad person when you were born, basically. And now you want to tell me you're a good person because you know, donated $100,000? No, I don't believe you. So because we have the capacity to do that, that's how we keep them in line. We don't have to believe these people when they talk. I always say that. I don't believe these. I don't believe them. I believe it when I see it. That's what we can do to them. We can say, no, we don't believe you. And if we don't believe you, that means these angels ain't going to respond to you. It's not like, oh, we don't believe you doesn't carry power. It carries power and they know it. So if we say we don't believe you, we don't think that you've changed, we want to prove it, right? Prove it. If America is a moral country, right? If America is a moral country, prove it. I want to see some proof.
Well, but also on top of that, we can say, yeah, I believe you. Now you better continue acting the part. Because,
Right.
like if you tell me that you are generous and I say I don't believe you, well then you get to cop out if you stop being generous, right? Because you're like,
Mm,
you don't believe me, and I'm like, you know what? Yeah, you're right. I told you I didn't believe you. But
right.
if you're being generous and I'm telling you I believe you, you are generous, what are the chances that you're going to stop being generous? Well,
None.
it's going to be difficult, right? Yeah, because now you know that basically you're going to break my view of you in seeing that you're generous. So the pressure for
Right.
you to keep being generous actually intensifies. So this goes back to, we're putting gas on the fire.
Right.
They say that, that they are going to be absolved, that they are saved, and that this money makes them be a good person. Okay, you're a good person. Now I'm going to treat you and I'm going to demand that you continue to function in that way.
Right.
So, and by us putting pressure on them in that, like, okay, you're part of God's chosen ones. Great. I'm embracing you now. Now, because I'm embracing you, like, my energy is going to keep you in check. My
Right.
state of being, my the entities and spirits that are keeping me in check are now keeping you in check as well.
Right. Well, I mean, that I think what we're talking about is just two sides of the same stone, because on one end, yes, you get to be the good cop and say, "Oh, you're a good person. Great. I believe you." And I get to be the bad cop, which is, "No, I don't believe you. Let me just do some research and see what you're talking about. Let's expose some more secrets." But that's how it's supposed to work. We don't supposed to have the same exact view on how these things play out, because obviously we have different angles to work. Like, you should be working the
Yes, for
happy
sure.
angle, you know? Let me
Well,
work
but
that.
it's both. It's both. The thing is, it's both, because like you don't have to always be the bad cop. You don't always have to be the good cop. You're both.
Right, right. No, I mean, just I would
Because best
say,
believe, yeah, if people are saying that they're generous and they're not being generous, yeah, I'm gonna put them in their place
yeah, but
real
that's
quick.
not being the bad cop. See, the bad cop is the one who scares you with their words. The good cop will actually take you and around back and whoop your hind parts. But the bad cop is just going to talk about it. Like, I'm going to do something to you one of these days. But the good cop is the one. Like, remember on, what was that, Law and Order? It was always the cop who was like the good cop that had the bad attitude, Christopher
Oh,
Maloney. And
yes.
it's like,
Yeah,
oh, but
right, right.
he's supposed to be playing the good cop, you know? But he's the
Yeah, and
one
the
who,
bad cop actually had like the soft heart.
yes. Yes. Yeah, well, or Mariska Hargitay, the female, she was really like the bad cop. She didn't believe nothing these people said. She was going, and
Uh-huh.
he would be like, well, let's wait a minute, let's see what's going on. But then, as soon as they stepped out of line, their ass was on the ground. That's how it's supposed. It's just the nature of the role. Like, I mean, if people just accepted their purpose and their place, I don't have a problem with always being the bad cop. Actually, it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, once you have kids, again, you don't get to be a good cop once you have kids. You've always got to be a bad cop if you're a mom, because the kids always want to do crazy stuff. Like, I gave my son some candy, but I had some other candy. This man ate all the candy. I needed to not let him eat all the candy. Well, luckily I didn't have to put him in bed, because that would have been a mess. But he shouldn't have ate all that candy. I should not have let him eat all the candy. You know what I mean? And that's what the bad cop has to say. Okay, you got one piece of candy. That's enough. Like, two pieces. When we went trick or treating, the reason why there was so much candy left in the neighborhood, because everybody. This is not one or two people. I saw this across the board. Everybody was taking one or two pieces of candy. You did not see kids out there taking the whole handfuls, and it was, the people were giving out that much. It was too much, but you didn't see the kids taking it. They weren't like, especially the neighborhood we went trick or treating in. Some people just left the candy at the door. Some people just left the candy in the driveway. You know, it's like, okay, it's up to you. It's the honor system, and people were still taking two pieces, three pieces. They weren't taking the whole bucket and leaving nothing for everyone else. They were being reasonable. And that's, again, when people don't celebrate Halloween and do trick or treating, they don't understand that, because they miss
Yeah.
that lesson. You know, everything can be a lesson when you make it that way. But if you're just looking for everything to be horrible, then you're going to miss the lesson of, hey, how do you go to somebody's house? Say please, say thank you, get a treat, show off your costume, which is the work that you put into it, or the thought, or whatever, and then move on to the next house. That's entertaining skills. How much would you pay to teach a child entertaining at 2 or 3 by rewarding them with candy that you didn't even have to buy? I mean, that sounds like a good deal to me.
Yeah, right.
That's when you introduce the morality back into it. So that's what we have to do. I mean, there's a scripture and stuff to go along with it. Um, and I mean, but we'll be talking about Ben Franklin for a while. Let me put it that way, because there's a lot to discuss. His name is Benjamin, and he was the youngest son of the family. Like,
Mm,
again, like things we wasn't thinking
right,
about. Like, no,
right. I didn't even realize the Benjamin.
yes, his name was
I mean, and
Benjamin.
he's the most famous American Benjamin.
Yeah, and he was the
Wow.
youngest son of the family of 17 children. He was the
Mm.
youngest son. So he
Wow.
was literally Benjamin. That's why they name his parents have biblical names too. One, his father's name was Josiah, and Josiah became a king in the Bible at age 8, and he was the one who rediscovered the book of the law and forced Judah to abide by it. He literally forced them to abide by it. So that's his father's name. And his mother's name is Abaya, last name Folger, as in Folger coffee. And well, let me say this part first. Abaya is Abijah in the Bible, and this was one of the sons of Samuel, and he was a judge. So Ben Franklin's parents, one carrying the energy of the judge, the other carrying the energy of a king, bears Franklin, like Benjamin, who is the youngest son of Jacob. Like, that's not a coincidence. These people knew the Bible, is what I'm saying. They knew the Bible.
Mm.
There's no way they couldn't have known the Bible. But so his mother last name is Folger, of Folger Coffee. And so one of the things that, because around that late 1600s, well, in late 1700s, early 1800s, that's when they started getting access to coffee. And Ben wanted to make coffee something that everybody could have easy access to. So what is Folgers? It's instant coffee, something that everyone can have access to. So our working theory is that he created the first coffee press or whatever, or process, and gave it to these people to mass produce this coffee and get it into as many hands as people as he could, because that was his other thing. Like inventing, we know he was an inventor. He's the reason why we know it's not just when a lightning energy comes through the sky, and we know that because of Ben Franklin and his experiments with the keys and the strings.
Oh, yes. Yeah, right, right.
Exactly, he did a
Well,
lot of
and
stuff
that's, I mean, it's very obvious that he is a passionate man, that he was a passionate man because all the stuff he did. I mean, he was what they call a renaissance man,
for sure.
a jack of all trades,
Yes.
as you said last
Right. How can you
last
be a
spaces.
master of none? Ben Franklin mastered everything that he did. This
Uh-huh.
is why they couldn't make me, again, I was a reader. I knew history. They couldn't make me believe what they were saying. Like I knew what they were saying was not true. It's just, when you're a kid, they don't want to listen to you. So I just didn't listen to them. I'm like, y'all don't know what y'all are talking about. I read the book. The book said this. I read the encyclopedia. This is what the encyclopedia said about that. So don't tell me like to ignore what I'm reading in this book when y'all want me to read books. Like it doesn't make, like, pick a struggle. Like don't have kids out here telling them, oh, the books lie, but then like books are important. Like you can't do that. So yeah, that's where Folgers, we believe Folgers coffee came from, some invention, something from him. Um And just like David in the Bible, his nemesis was his son. He had a son, his oldest son, he had by another woman, an English woman or a French woman, I think actually. I think his name was William, if I'm not mistaken. But he hated his dad, like because he was a British loyalist. And obviously Franklin was trying to emancipate America from these people. And it's just like Absalom we talked about. I think it might have been a week ago. We're talking about, or a week and a half ago, we're talking about Absalom and his father David, and it was the same kind of thing. Like, William saw his father as like immoral, and so that's the campaign he went on. Because if you think about it from the perspective of the British, by doing an Emancipation Proclamation, you are committing treason, because you're saying that you're disloyal to the British government, to the British crown. And so um the whole thing about that is, if you are somebody who thinks that crown is legitimate, and you got a group of people over here saying it's illegitimate, that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. Both of y'all can't be right. And so, and also, one of the rules is that you're supposed to follow the government. But the whole thing about that is they're illegitimate. So this is where the nuance, like the understanding that these things are very nuanced. Like there's nothing wrong with the founding of America. That wasn't the problem. It was once these weirdos got in here and decided they were going to make the government God, that we started to have these. What are those people that always talk about, the Russians and the communists? Yeah, when these communists got into the government and decided they were going to make the government God, because that's all communism is. The state is your God, and everything is around that. But they're all just imitating the caliphate. These are all imitations of the caliphate. That's why all, like, its history doesn't repeat, but it rhymes, because they're all like, it's that weird Allah God.
Wow. For some reason, it reminded me of there was a video I saw on TikTok about this little boy that basically was, he believes he's Spider-Man. So
Mm.
he's like on the ground, kind of like low how Spider-Man would be, like kind of like one hand down, the
Right.
two feet, and then he's like
Was
kind
this
of
the guy with the leaves?
no. This
Oh,
is
okay. There's
just
another guy doing the same thing.
some random video, like a random kid. And so he's down almost like a spider, like Spider-Man. And he
Mm-hmm.
really believes that he's Spider-Man. And then I think it was his mom, or I think it was his mom, is videotaping him and laughing at him, telling him, "You're not Spider-Man. You're not Spider-Man. Like, stop acting like you're Spider-Man." And I'm looking at that,
Mm.
and I don't know how this relates to anything we said, but I'm looking at that. I'm like, why are we telling kids that they're not Spider-Man? Why don't we tell them that they are Spider-Man? Why don't we like feed them, like feed their passion, feed their ego, like really boost them up? And obviously there's a point where like it's not like we're literally saying that they are actually Spider-Man, but like why you got to knock the kid down and tell him that he's not Spider-Man. He's not Spider-Man. You got to be real. You got to be this, that. Because what passion demands is in many ways a certain form of what society would call delusion.
Right.
And I think what we're seeing currently as morality, because you said morality is like the basis of passion. Like first, what we're seeing currently is the foundation, like regaining the foundation of morality in this country. And as we do that, we see the passion, and
Right.
that's what the system was trying to the system has lost the energy of the people, and specifically, as you mentioned, black people. They decided to basically just um, step away from the
Right.
government, step away from supporting the government in the way that they were in the past being used for. So now
Right.
the energy is being charged up to feed morality. And as it feed morality, the passion is going to come about. And this is the passion that's going to fuel the empire. Like
Right.
this is the same energy, although it's obviously going to be different energy, but the same type of energy that was fueling the current government is now an aligned, passionate energy that's going to fuel this empire, which the empire needs a ton of energy because, well, it got to sort out everything that's wrong with this
Right.
reality. There's
Right.
so much that is off that has to be sorted out, but it has to be done through passion. And I
Right.
think it's very beautiful that we're seeing this really play out amongst the feminine, because it's the women, the keepers of morality. Like they gotta stand up for themselves, and they're doing it because things have gotten that bad. That's why they're standing up, because things have gotten that bad. It's not because things are good. It's because things are really on the it's collapsing. So obviously the women are
Right.
like, shit, we can't rely on these men. These men out here just
Right.
wiling. So I got to step up to the plate, and they have been doing that, I would say, for the last few decades, physically. But now it's not good enough physically step up. Now they got to step up morally.
Right. Well, the reason why you brought up that story is because I had the same exact conversation with my friend earlier, and we said that in order to be a superhero, you have to be moral. There's you can't otherwise
Mm.
you're a villain. Like you're not a superhero if you're moral. And
Wow.
so what have they done? They've made all the villains more appealing than the superheroes. I saw that Superman movie. Did I see the whole movie? Was it a movie? The Superman movie?
There's one that came out recently.
I think I saw the whole movie. I don't know where I was because that's not. I don't even watch movies, but I think I saw the whole movie. And the crazy thing about like even that movie was that they tried to make Superman like the villain almost like the he just effed everything up and it's all his fault. And it's just like That's so weird. Like, oh, I know why I saw it, because I watched half of it. I didn't watch the end because of Mr. Terrific. And they had this sequence where he just like took everybody out with his little, oh my gosh, his little orbs. Holy smokes. Oh Lord.
He had
Mr.
orbs.
Terrific. He
Wow.
had orbs. Yes. And he just called them out like poof, 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 poof. The people fell down, the people from Luther Core. And I watched that scene so many times because they released it. I guess it was I watched that scene so many times. I was like, this is just fantastic. Like, look at him go. And his thing was like media. So his mask is a T, right? But it's not a T because like it was a T because that would make it so that they couldn't scan him. Like all of when he showed up, he would just look like a ghost. It messed with all of their stuff. So that's why he wore the T mask. I forgot about that movie until just now. I got through half of it. Right after that scene, I stopped watching it because it started to get scary. And I was like, why am I watching a scary movie? I know I'm about to. Let me just turn this off. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to understand what happened up to that point. I never finished that movie. But yeah, it was. He had orbs. Back to the Vogolia. Like all this stuff was being laid out. And I had no idea. See, this is. I forgot all about that. So if. The women continue to step up, it's really putting the system in a tough spot because you have to have women working in their systems to make their stuff work. And their systems work. They're more to give them the moral high ground. So if women, this is why women are supposed to work. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. So if the women start removing their energies from these places, they can do nothing but fail. And they're going to go in a free fall really fast until they do the right thing to get women to come and work there willingly. See, this has always been about, not all of it, but it's definitely been about forcing women to work. And they couldn't, again, I was just talking about this in the beginning. Yeah, we haven't on here a while. I was talking about this in the beginning. If a woman got in their mind, right, that you were doing something wicked, especially if it was your wife, they would not leave you alone. Like they wouldn't leave you alone. And so imagine you guys are some evil men who married women that you actually hate because you hate women because they're all gay. And basically you're trying to convince this woman to work in your, go to work or do this or have a 13 that she didn't want, that kind of thing. Well, if the woman had a dream where in a dream she was showing you cheating, she goes to the place, finds that you're cheating, and because this is a story that happened like next door. The guy was at somebody's house he wasn't supposed to be at, and this happened earlier today. Actually, I walked up and they was yelling, and I was like, "What is going on?" And my old man was like, "Yeah, he was at somewhere he wasn't supposed to be, and the woman caught him, and now they fighting." I was like, "Oh my Lord, what is going on?" But yeah, she probably had an inkling, an intuition, a little something, and went and looked for him and found him somewhere he wasn't supposed to be. But imagine, like, again, this is the 1500s, the 1600s, and you're trying to enslave the whole world because this weird demon told you if you could do it, you could take everything I have, you can have. That's what this demon told you. So you read in the Bible, you want to be on Satan's team, which is insane. And that's what these people did. They were trying to figure out how to turn off the Holy Spirit. So they had to start with the women. They had to discredit the women from ever having any authority, which is why you have to look for. And something very interesting happened today as well. They released the documents for JFK and MLK, but Trump also started talking about releasing the records for Amelia Earhart. And those records were released today, 88 years after she disappeared. So I don't know if this is a good
Mm.
Trump move or a bad Trump move, because 88 is kind of a weird number. It's the doom loop. So and two eights are two doom loops. So sometimes they're doom loops and sometimes they're happy loops. It really depends. So I think I'm going to look more at this information and see. I haven't looked at the JFK or the RFK dumps. I didn't really. I'm like, I'm not going to learn anything new from that. This right here, I feel like might be relevant in some way. So, but why release it today? Why even talk about releasing it? Who asked to see that? I've never seen anyone talk about Amelia Earhart, much less want the records released. Why did the American government even have records on her like that? 88 years ago is before the FBI, before the CIA. Like, what? Who was collecting records on her? So it's going to be a lot of stuff that probably comes out in there they don't want to talk about too much. And those records came out today. Again, the first day, sort of semi day of my feast, here they come out with this information. Very weird. Very weird.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this maybe ties with like the founding of the US because like Amelia was the first woman to circumnavigate the planet
Right.
and like uh energetically like she was very powerful in bringing about aviation.
Right.
It says here that she was one of the first aviators to promote commercial air travel.
Mm. So people
Um,
could see the world for themselves.
instrumental in the formation of 99s, an organization for female pilots.
Mm.
99.
Of course.
Um,
See?
so I think with something like I think this is a nod towards what you're talking about in terms of like um showing like bringing up the women that really like have like now Amelia Earhart is very well known, but she could have very easily been behind the scenes. Like she could have very
Right.
easily been completely ignored by the men that did this or that. So um it's I think it's a nod at you in terms of like the important roles that women have played, and
Right.
it just happens to be that Amelia is one of the few not few women, but like it just shows that she did play a very foundational role in aviation history.
Right. Well, and it might also explain what happened with Bessie Coleman, because she was a aviator as well, and she did more shows to get the people interested in planes. And one thing that Bessie Coleman did was she would not perform in front of mixed crowds. So they had to be integrated crowds for her to perform in front of them. And that meant coming in the same gate, sharing the same bathrooms, drinking from the same water fountains, all of that. She didn't allow segregation at her shows. And she died at an air show here in Jacksonville. Another person who was calling me here to clean that up, because that really haven't been resolved either. But she died in Jacksonville. She crashed her plane while she was trying to open
Mm.
up a school to teach kids how to fly.
So, and on top of that, Trump, I think, did something with like where the airlines like don't have to like refund for flights or something. There was something with he signed some, I think, executive order where like basically it was some Biden era rule where
Yeah,
like
because
airlines had to
Biden.
like fully refund like canceled flights or something like that or like
No,
rescheduled
I
flights.
think you have it backwards. I mean, it could be wrong, but I feel like Biden said that they didn't have to refund for flights, and then Trump fixed it and said no, they do have to refund for flights. I mean, I could be wrong.
Yeah, I mean, it seemed like people were complaining that
Yeah,
this was good
people
for
were
the lobby
complaining.
for the airline industry. I don't know because I don't know like what. I don't know the reasoning as to like,
I'll
let's
look it
see.
up. I mean, now we're talking about airplanes, which I don't. What does this have to do with anything?
So it says Trump admin drops Biden plan to require passenger compensation for delayed flights.
Oh, they were planning, but they didn't actually do it though. They were just going to do it. They said they were going to do it. Again, stealing one person's. Remember, this is why I
Yeah,
said
right,
the
right.
government
Mm-hmm.
does not even want the companies to have money. Stealing money from the companies to give to the consumers when the consumers already paid for the flight. Is this what kind of nonsense is this? Because you know how they would use that. They would
Oh, so
say,
this is for delays.
"Oh, for delays." Yeah, you can't do that.
Because it
That's
says here airlines in the US must refund passengers for canceled flights, but are not required to compensate customers for delays.
yeah, but a lot of times the delays don't even be delays. They still end up being canceled. I mean, they're looking for. I mean, anyway, I don't know. I had to look and see exactly what Biden was doing because was he doing it or who actually signed the document? Was it the auto pen? Because the auto pen signed it. I'm not sure it has any. It don't have a leg to stand on, and it's not in my book.
So it's interesting because like the same day that this whole Amelia Earhart thing comes out, Trump also rescinds this Biden plan.
Oh,
So
that
there's
happened
something
today.
with yeah,
Oh, I
uh-huh.
missed that.
Same day. Hmm.
That's very weird.
So
Yeah,
there's something with this whole aviation and then obviously like the traffic controllers and the government shutdown. Like there's something and I think he's actually gonna implement a new system for airlines.
yeah.
Like
They
a
said it's
new
going to
a
be
new
launched within like 2 to 3 weeks. He did say that.
so there's something with air travel
Mm.
that is being like
Well,
transformed.
it's because if they want to keep traveling by the air, they got to do right. These people, I mean, these entities are
Mm,
not playing with them. They have
yeah,
done they have
right,
done wrong
right.
so long. We're calling them out, which means that they're really being called out. Not oh, okay, well, we're just gonna tell them we'll get our acts together and we're gonna keep doing the same thing. No, indeed. No, that's not going to work this time. It's worked every other time. They really don't know what to do when this, except to just kind of go with what Trump is saying. He's the only, again, he's the only one who's halfway moral, like of the whole lot. These are some immoral people that have no legs to stand on. And like Trump is the only one giving them some sort of reprise. And I don't think it's going to be for long. I think they're just I think they're just being given enough rope to hang themselves. I don't think it's going to be like, oh, they're going to get a lot of time to figure it out, to work it out. I don't think so. I don't see that.
Yeah, there's something, yeah, something like maybe the elite are scared to fly now. They're
They
getting
should be.
scared to fly.
They should be. They absolutely should be. Because they so if they're scared to fly, they would want more normies in the sky. Again, black if black people could fly and go on trips, they would be safe wherever they went. Because a plane not gonna come down the way that they have these planes coming down if we're on them. It just won't. Like if you're a righteous person, you cannot right now there's not enough righteous people participating in their society because of the way that they've done
Mm.
everything. So now they're trying to figure out how they can still maintain their stupid profits and not get killed every time they go to do something. Because you see the Walmart CEO stepped down today
Oh,
after 10
wow.
years. So yeah, they are getting scared. They don't know what to do. And they can't figure out how to get us to participate. And then we're not going to participate in a system that's not moral. So we're at a crossroads. Are you guys going to go down the moral route or are you going to keep pushing this immorality? Because if immorality is your choice, that's fine. We're out. We're not willing to participate in a moral system. They never thought we would have that position. Because when have the last time they've seen that position is from someone like a Ben Franklin? It's been that long. Like that had actual motion, that really had a mandate to do something. So they really don't have a plan. And instead of just doing the right thing, right? Like, the problem will be solved overnight if they just behave righteously. They don't want to do that because they're still trying to hold on to their power. Again, this is what we call cleaving with pride. They're only doing it because they're trying to figure out how to hold on to their power. If they did it because it was the right thing to do, their life would be so much better. But they won't do it like that. I mean, I don't think they're gonna have much of a choice. Their time is running out. Ain't looking too
Yeah, it's
good for them.
not looking good for them for sure.
It's not looking too good for them. But I think this was a pretty good introduction because I feel like I need to do some more research. This information is all new, and I haven't dug down into um, Franklin's information the way that I need to in order to really like go deep. But this is a good general direction of where we're going. We are definitely going to implement these virtues. We're going to implement them on a small scale. We're going to implement them on a large scale. And we are literally like, this country is, they're not going to be able to bring the caliphate here. They're not.
No, 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 not
I
at
mean, they
all.
couldn't before,
I
but
wonder where they're
now,
gonna bring it, where they're gonna do it,
ooh, child. Well, the word,
because they're gonna have to do it somewhere.
well, what I heard in these spiritual streets is that what's that place? Indonesia might be getting what they're
Okay, yep,
they might
I
be
could see
getting what
that.
they're getting right now because Obama, his father is actually from that Indonesia Philippines area. His
Mhm.
father, his real father, the one who actually donated the sperm, um, or however they did it. He's the founder of a organization called Sudbud, and it was like a cult. And his mother was a participant in this cult, and so basically, that secret has never come out. People still don't. People think this man is from Kenya or what. He don't even look like an African. I know enough Africans. He don't even look like an African. But that's what these people believe. So I think it could be something related to, until they give up the information on the truth about this man, and they're holding all his secrets. That's why they're being destroyed. They need to just give it up and stop trying to cover and hide for this man. Nobody, you can't, I mean, anyway, I'm not going to say that, but they should really stop trying to cover and hide for this man. And they haven't yet, but I don't think they're going to have too much choice because they're not going to have too much country left if they don't hurry up. Because they got a
Yeah.
big, what's it, call it a, they just had an earthquake. Now they have a tsunami, another storm. Some kind of something is going on right now. Like, I think it's a typhoon, they call them. Yeah, they got another typhoon headed that way. They just had a typhoon 3 weeks ago with the whole Alaska thing. Now they got another typhoon headed their way. That
Jeez.
is crazy. It's like, y'all gonna keep holding on to that man's secrets. Like, you're not gonna have an island left. So some,
Well, yeah, and this is like the ancestors are the ones. Their ancestors are
yeah,
like the ones getting hit. And so their ancestors are putting pressure on these people to get their shit together because obviously the ancestors are not happy that their area, their locality are being hit.
yeah. Cause and a few months ago, maybe a year ago, all the temples crashed. They had an earthquake and all the temples crashed. And a huge scandal came out about how the people in these temples was the monks or whatever was
Oh
scamming. They was
yeah,
doing
right.
all. They had women
And
in
like
there.
hookers or prostitutes.
Yes,
Yeah, right,
some
right, right.
crazy stuff. I was like,
That
God
was
dang!
big.
And so they
That
never
was a
dealt
big
with
deal.
that.
Mm.
They never dealt with any of their stuff. They just went on like everything was good, and now everything is falling apart because even without the storms, well, not even without the storms, one of the things that's going on in the Philippines is that Duarte, who is the president, is under hot water because they had given out these government contracts for waterproofing. Why they never did none of the work? And so when they
Mm,
got the last storm, everything flooded that wasn't supposed to flood because they had given out these contracts to do things,
wow.
and the stuff was not ever done. And so yeah, it's a lot of. I mean, I think this is going on in every country is being exposed for this same set of stuff. And so another part of this is like everybody's under judgment. It's not like, oh, we have judgment here but there's no judgment there. No, everybody's under judgment. And it almost seems like we're winning as Americans because we're embracing the morality of it all, and they're still pissed off. Because if we embrace morality, that means they can embrace morality. They can't claim, well, we can't be moral on this planet. Look at it. Everybody is just wrong. Again, why they keep trying to dirty Trump, but it's very nuanced. Like, and now it's just going to come out that Epstein was just obsessed with Trump, which he had TDS like a mofo. Like, so this is going to backfire on them, but because they're so like entrenched in their own ideas, again, they're not following this list. None of the people who believe this stuff can really follow this list on a weekly or even on a daily basis. It's very, very difficult for them. And they have a huge problem. I just wouldn't recommend following these people. There's something's wrong. And I don't think there's a way for these other countries to get out of this without addressing this morality issue. So if we force America to address the morality issue,
Uh-huh. Yep.
everyone has to address it.
Right. Exactly.
It just
Yep.
it makes it's just not going to be good for these people, because so that's why they want us to be, that's why you would have somebody like Israel, the biggest immoral people on the planet, basically next to the caliphate people, um running all these operations here. I saw there's some they got going on now. They don't want Megyn Kelly, who I mean, all these people are weird, like
The thing is, they fighting some use like they're so fixated on useless battles.
mm-hmm.
Like Megyn Kelly really that important?
No, but remember, if they can keep us fighting, they can keep us. They can say, "See, look, we can." And no one can have peace. There's no countries that have peace on this country on this planet. That's why you have to give us more time. They're just using it to try to reset the timeline, and we keep saying
Yeah,
no.
they're just wasting their time on useless crap.
That's all they
So,
have.
I was what was it? It's so something about the morality in the United States. Um, oh, no, I forgot. Oh, there was something. There was okay, okay. So the Etruscans, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Etruscan culture. So what are the odds that like it's the Etruscan culture, then Rome, then the Medicis, which basically birthed the Renaissance. Like that area was basically the center of power for thousands of years.
Right. Right.
And then it moved to the United States.
Yep.
And so, in the same way that we are seeing different developments of forms of government, forms of structure, we're seeing the same thing with the United States. First, it was even before actually the United States was formed. The Etruscan culture is very similar to, I think, what you've been talking about in terms of
The native
like
culture, the
the
tribal
the
culture.
natives.
Yeah.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
right, right. And then it went into, guess what? Rome, which is the US government.
Right.
And then after Rome, well, now it's the Medicis.
Oh
The
my
Medicis
gosh.
are about to take over. Um, and that's going to bring forth the new Renaissance.
Right.
But now the thing though is to make sure that the Medici, like, because the first few leaders of the Medici did very well,
Mm.
and then it just fell apart. Like at the end, at the last reign of the last Medici, the one who was like the ruler of Tuscany, the area was bankrupt.
Mm. Well,
But I just found it very interesting how it was the Etruscans, the Romans, and then it was the Medici.
I'm not surprised. And the reason why it was probably all messed up is because they started to buy into the patriarchy. And so people had moved on and said, nah, we don't want to be a part of this. That's more of that patriarchy crap.
Right, right.
And fighting and war and you we always have to keep in mind that they were being attacked by these other groups of people. It's not like any of this stuff was happening inside of a you know um and a bubble. Like you always have to look at what in the world was going on around them, because a lot of times these other
Yeah, I mean, I'm
organizations and
I'm
these
actually
groups.
impressed they were able to do what they did. Like
Right.
especially the Renaissance. I mean, if it
That's
wasn't for the
amazing.
Medici family, there would have been no Renaissance. I mean,
Right, you
obviously, I mean,
said that.
maybe there would have, but like it was from the money of the Medici. And then obviously
Wow.
so it's very similar to what we're doing here, where through the morality, we're bringing forth passion.
Right.
Passion is what brings the Renaissance. When people are passionate,
Mm.
that's where we have the greatest thinkers, the greatest artists, the greatest
Right.
writers. That's where people begin to perform because they're passionate about what they're doing.
Right.
And
Right.
so like in us being able to do this, we are going to bully reality to create a new Renaissance, which
It
in creating this new Renaissance, it's going to open up a whole new world for humanity that's going to, if it wasn't for the last Renaissance, who knows where we would have been? Like, I mean, who knows
right.
where humanity would be now with that Renaissance? And so for the Medicis to have had such an influential role and to have the balls to do it and do it in a
Right.
way where
Right.
one, like, I mean, the families in Florence, like they were assassinating the Medici. Like they
Wow.
it was savage out there just purely from the power struggles, but still somehow some way they were able to maintain their power to make all this money to then basically become patrons of arts and culture. And they did it in a way where like even under the attacks they were still able to co-opt the system.
Mm. Yeah, that's where we need to be headed. We need to be able to do that. We need to channel in that energy. And that's what I feel like this is. This is I mean, I've seen this before because this is kind of what happened 3 years ago. We started channeling in this energy, didn't know what it was or where it was coming from, but we just kept following it, kept asking the questions and asking the questions. And the answers were showing up, and they weren't like, again, Diana, like stuff that we weren't expecting for it to show up was showing up. And it just got to the point where, I mean, how you just not going to believe some of this stuff? Like you can't just keep saying it's a coincidence. Once is a coincidence, twice is not. Three times, four, five, six, stuff kept happening over and over again, and that's where I feel like we're at now. We don't have the crazy women who would say, "I'm noticing a pattern here." No, you're not, crazy woman. Get back in there and fix my dinner. No, man. I can clearly see something is going on, and that type of energy is uncontrollable. More
Yeah,
uncontrollable energy.
and it's interesting because in order for women to get back to this spot, they had to be physically well off, or at least physically sovereign enough. And
Right.
as we know, women in the U.S. outnumber in home ownership. They like
Yeah.
women in general in the US are far better financially, materially well off than men. And that is necessary in order for her to take the risk to be moral, to
Right.
demand morality, not just from men, but from reality itself. Because obviously, if they didn't have this type of sovereignty, or at least this type of um, physical capabilities, the men would just say, as you said, shut up and go to the kitchen.
Right.
Now the men can't, I
Right.
mean, the men are trying, obviously, these quote unquote men are trying to send them back to the kitchen and repeal the what is it, the 13th,
The
the ninth,
19th.
to the
19th.
19th, like, doing all sorts of bullshit to try to stop women. But women,
But
it's
I used to say that
they're
all the time
unstoppable
because
now.
yeah, I used to say that all the time because Why do we even need to be bothered? That's like sports. Let the men do that. We got other stuff to do that's way more important. So I used to say it all the time, like, yeah, but not for the same reasons that y'all are saying. Who we don't need to be worried with votes. That's a sport. Let the men do the sports, I guess. That's what I always say. And we don't need to be worried about this stuff. But no, you're right. Yeah, the women had to be self
And so notice the
what is that?
feminist
Not
movement.
self-created, but efficient.
Yes, like yeah, yes, self.
Aware, self-aware.
Mm. And it's like this feminist movement was really in many ways made to control women, and look at it ended up being actually what is empowering them. Now, I mean,
Right.
obviously that was the whole feminist movement was to empower women, but it really wasn't. At least their
Right.
aims was not to do that. Their aims was to create another class of slaves, another
Right.
class of taxpayers, which sure, yeah, in some ways they did, but that still gave women the impetus to now be in an empowered state to look at reality and say, no, we're not going to wait for men to 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 change things. We're going to do it for ourselves. And so as
Right.
women become
Exactly.
moral, their standards elevate, and that's going to drive men to be extremely passionate. Because
Mm-hmm.
I think the women set the morals, and the men run off with the passion. Like they're the
I
ones that
think
are
that's
like
true.
consumed by the passion, which if you look at the Renaissance, like it was the men were just had an insane amount of passion, and it was because of this
Mm.
passion, and it was grounded by the proper moralities by the women.
Right.
Then the passion, the energy was able to blossom, to create alignment, to create beauty, to create these amazing things that were able to be created, that still to this day impact us in fundamental ways. We don't
Right.
have this
Right.
passion. This passion like left.
No.
No people don't have passion anymore.
They don't have it at all.
Right. So now
Very
our
little.
passion, because we have the morals, because we have um, been basically forced to do it ourselves, to live this amoral life and sacrifice that. And
Right.
as a result, we have been able to cultivate and inculcate ourselves with this passion. Now we are, as the leaders of this reality, providing the way and sending out commands, in this case to women, to get their morals set, to get their
Right.
shit together,
Right.
to start loving themselves. And then
Right.
from that, then as men start looking at the women saying, shit, like I can't fuck around with these women. I can't,
Right.
be a failure. I can't be a piece of shit. I can't do this. I can't do that. Okay, let me get my shit together. Let me be moral. Let me be a good human being. And from that,
Right.
the passion just explodes.
Right. And don't forget the missing piece of this. Women wouldn't have the space to do this if there weren't men protecting them. Because that's been the other part of it.
Yeah.
Like women, it's not that women aren't moral, it's that if you were too moral, you still ended up dead because there was no one to protect you. And that has been kind of one of those, it's like the
Mm.
secret third thing, I'm always talking about. There's this secret third thing. That's what this is. It's the secret third thing. It's just like the reason why this hasn't been possible before is because there was no one to protect the women who were in this energy. But
Wow.
now that's not the case. We got you and whoever else. It's several. It's and other men that are standing up and against this kind of stuff and speaking the truth. And there's a lot of them on TikTok, that are like, no, y'all gonna stop disrespecting black women, black people, all of this stuff. It's a lot. So you see all of
And
that
even
kind
like
of.
that guy on TikTok that was, the $20, the
Oh
EBT,
yeah, yeah.
like him apologizing is him protecting women. Now, granted,
Exactly.
I think what he initially did was not good, but him apologizing and getting real with himself, that's protecting women.
Yeah. And it's funny because Wale, he's an artist from DC. He came out from with an album today, and I wasn't even going to listen to it. I heard about it, but I'm like, I like Wale. obviously, but I'm not like a huge fan because he always say he's from DC. He's not really from DC. He's from Maryland. Then he's not really from Maryland because his parents are Nigerian. So I like for people to be like more honest. But his name is Wale, which is an African name. So like you would have to be kind of like not just totally unaware not to understand what's going on. And most people inside the DC region kind of know how this thing goes, but I always say, well, what about the people who have no idea about any of this cultural stuff? That's just the way that we behave. It's very unusual. So anyway, I listened to the album and he had a line in there. And one of the lines was he wished he had listened to this woman when she tried to tell him not to do something. And I was like, wait a minute, I take this personally because it's lots of like things that I've said to men that they just didn't listen to. Wale particularly, because I don't really like celebrities, so I always stayed away from all of that stuff. But for someone from the area to say something like that, that's crazy. That's not like, oh, one person feels this way. There's a lot of people that feel that way, and I've never heard a man from DC talk like that. They never
Mm,
apologize. Like even if you know that they know that you know that they're wrong, they're still not going to apologize. So for him to even say that on an album that came out today on the first day of this feast, you know
wow.
what I mean? Like talking about
Hmm.
how he was like sorry he didn't listen to this girl who tried to warn him. That's like, okay, I see what direction this is going. This is no joke.
Wonderful. And so so you said the feast. When does the feast and the fast start? Like for us?
Well, I started today, but I always start early. Technically, you don't have to start until the day after Thanksgiving. You can go from the day after Thanksgiving until the day before Christmas. Or you can start now. I started now because of Jupiter. I have Jupiter in retrograde in my chart, so this is a special time for me. So I started today. But
It's interesting because I haven't been eating that much
oh,
the last 2, 3
you may
days.
have started early too. I almost always start before everyone else. Not because I mean, this is a feast, so usually, I mean, this is only our second feast. So I'm still not really like 100% like understanding what's going on with that. But so yeah, you can start anytime from now to Christmas.
Thanksgiving
Yeah, so Thanksgiving. But the day
to
after
start.
Thanksgiving, that's when I suggested you tell everybody that it starts for the people who are going
Okay.
to fast, and for the
Good to
women,
know.
yeah, just start the day after Thanksgiving and go from that day until Christmas because it's not a full 40 days, so it'll be easier for people to handle.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'll start. I mean, basically kind of already started it, but I'll start it consciously now.
Yeah, that's
Awesome.
good.
Okay, great. Yeah, I think this was a great spaces as always. Yeah, I think seeing the understanding the morality and then the connecting it with passion is really
Mm-hmm.
important.
Let me write that down. You said men are the ones who bring the passion. Let me write that down before I forget. Okay, perfect. So we will talk again on Tuesday.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Have
Enjoy
a
your
good night.
weekend. Thanks, you too. Bye.